smoke blunts with ya, see your picture. Now they want to
Throws it right field, Jermaine Dye can't get it! One run is in! And the Rangers looking to win it! The Rangers have won it!
One time for the home of DJ Screw. Already.
Welcome back to Warning Track Power Episode 8. My name is Ian Fullington, and I am live from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And I am Eric Reining from San Bernardino, California.
It's been a while, Eric.
It has.
Yeah, it's been way too long. Well, we're back, and we are not going to waste any of your time making up some story about how we were, off working really hard or hiking mountains. We're going to get straight into it. We have a fairly busy schedule we'd like to talk about with the trade deadline happening today, just a mere few hours ago. And as we're recording, we are also watching the Rangers try to sweep the Angels, which is always a good feeling. Okay, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and just bring us right into our first point, if you don't mind. Basically, since the last time we talked, which was a couple ice ages ago, and, there was still a supercontinent on Earth and everything, and man had just finished evolving. What happened? Man, where did our offense go? The month of July has just been absolutely awful. I want to say they were tied for close to the fewest runs scored in the month of July. Just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I think
What happened?
I think the 14-run game from last night probably helped. But yeah, I would consider it variance. That would be my answer. But I mean, the truth is, pretty much everybody in the offense has been terrible. And when Elvis Andrus is your best hitter in the second half, you're probably going to have a hard time scoring runs.
I think he had a weighted runs created plus of isn't he sitting at 140 right now since the All-Star break?
Wouldn't surprise me. He has been pretty damn good.
Yeah, but still, man, it's been terrible. Got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think that we miss Good Lake Dad that much in our lineup?
That's a good question. I
know it's a good question. Yes. That's why I asked it. I ask good questions.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think his on-base percentage would be really nice in the order. I'm a big Lance Berkman guy myself. But he has been bad, quite frankly. He hasn't been hitting for any power when he was in the lineup, and at this point I'd be pretty surprised to see him come back at all this year. How do you feel about it?
I think he's going to retire. He needs to. He just doesn't have. It's. I actually live in Moore, Oklahoma, and there's a Toby Keith song. Sorry, I got to bring country into this. I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I'll ever be. And he was as good for 1 month as he'll ever be, and that's it. He's got nothing left. Compared to a normal 37, 38-year-old man, his knees are probably comparable, but for an athlete who's expected to round bases and, he puts a significant amount of torque on his knees, there's nothing left. It's sad because he is a good player, and when he is healthy, he's one of the best on-base percentage guys in the league. And the Rangers could desperately need someone right now, or they desperately need someone who gets on base and who just starts innings and, who's basically not a guaranteed ground ball or boomer bust hitter at this point, because we have a lot of guys who are streaky. Moreland's streaky. He's batting terrible. Cruz is extremely streaky. He might not even be here next week. Beltre's had his ups and downs. He's mostly up, but he strikes out a fair amount. He doesn't walk a whole lot. Kinsler is, he's bouncing back this year, but still, it would be really nice. And if we could just get a more consistent on base percentage guy. So, answering my own question, I do think we miss Lake Dad quite a bit.
Okay.
Are you disappointed we didn't get a hitter today at all?
Not at all. I think standing pat was the right way to go. Before we get into the trade deadline, though, I'm curious, since we were talking about Lance Berkman, do you think that, the impression that I get is that the Rangers really don't want him back? I mean, there isn't that much clamoring for him to return to the lineup and how important he is and blah, 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 narrative, insert wherever. But do you get that feeling too? Because it just doesn't seem like there's that much, traction in his side of the court.
Yeah, I know. I definitely feel that way. I think Josh Hamilton just hit a solo shot. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't think they want him back. But it's not because he's not, it's not because he's Lance Berkman. They just don't like him. It's because they really don't feel like he's going to play at the athletic level needed to compete.
Right.
It's like the Yankees getting A-Rod back. A-Rod, from all scouts' perspectives, is not a game speed. Berkman, while he may still have a good hit tool, he doesn't have power anymore. He can't run. He can't play the field. He's a one-tool player.
Yeah.
And as great as that is, unless your name was Joey Gallo, I'm not going to get that excited about it.
Okay.
Joey Gallo is actually two tools.
He's actually better than that. Don't cut him.
Yeah, no,
too
I know.
short.
I mean, right now he's so raw. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got an arm and he's got a bat, or he's got power,
and he can draw walks. But that's not really a
can.
tool, I guess. So you're right.
I put that in the hit. I mean, for me, hit is more than on base percentage. Hit to me, kind of encompasses the on base percentage and eye at the plate perspective. At least that's how I've always thought of the hit tool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I always kind of associate the hit tool with the amount of contact you can make.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
would think of Michael Young would have had a great hit tool because he made a lot of contact, but outside of that, he didn't draw walks and he never hit for much power. So I don't know. I guess it's just an interpretation kind of thing.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we're agreeing on everything here. I just think a really good example to me is I think Joey Votto has a better hit tool than Ichiro Suzuki did.
Okay.
Ichiro Suzuki was he didn't strike out, but he's a slap singles hitter, which is fine. And he is an incredible player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But Joey Votto has the ability to draw so many walks and put such good contact on the ball and still hit for average. That, to me, is a really full hit tool.
Yeah.
I think that's a better hit tool. And it doesn't necessarily just, I still am keeping power out of it. I think that's a really good hit tool.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I don't know. It's kind of, I guess, speaks to what the media is interested in. That guys like Michael Young and Ichiro get such publicity, and they have, they've been great at various stages of their career. But the on base percentage is still ignored in a lot of lights. You don't hear someone say, "Oh, he's a 360 on base guy." You hear them say, "Oh, he's a 290 hitter."
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, the trade deadline.
Yeah. I'm kind of jumping around from our points here, which, our viewers our listeners, I'm going to stick with viewers. Our viewers don't believe us, but we actually do have notes for these things. Some of them are a little moot because trade deadline's passed, but I like to talk about it. It was probably the most underwhelming trade deadline in recent Rangers history. I'm talking 2009 onward, but at the same time, I think it's one of the better trade deadlines. Actually, let me take that back. It can be a really good trade deadline, or it has the potential to be a not so very good trade deadline. Let me clarify. If you make the postseason, and for me, I'm even going so far as to say if you make one of the wild cards, picking up Garza suddenly makes you, I don't want to say the dark horse, because you're certainly not the dark horse once you get the playoffs. The slate is cleared clean. I believe the Rangers would have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball if they get to the postseason. But if they don't, then the trade could be for naught, because, of course, there is no guarantee you re-sign Garza. Although there are some Twitter sphere reports that he likes it here. What are your thoughts, Eric?
Well, there's a lot to go on there. I didn't.
No, I know. Just pick and choose what you like.
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm a bigger fan of. Apparently, you can hear traffic behind me right now. I'm a bigger fan of the trade now than I was when it actually happened. But Matt Garza, the way he's performed hasn't really had that much to do with it. I just think that trading that much Major League talent, future Major League talent at least, for a 2-month rental was just too much. As far as the postseason, I completely agree with you. I don't know how many teams, other than maybe the Tigers, can really match up with a Darvish, Holland, Garza, or Garza Game 2, whatever you want. It's pretty much vaulted the Rangers to having one of the 2, maybe 3 best starting rotations in the American League. So the point is making it to the postseason, because if they do, they have as good a shot as anybody to win it all. That's, of course, going to be the problem with the deficit they're facing in the division right now. And, you know, I don't know, it just depends on a hot streak, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, think about this, too. They could have Harrison back, and I'm saying, you know, I talked earlier in our podcast about Colby and Harry not making significant contributions this year. I bit my tongue a little bit, but then again, I was right a little bit in the sense that this time frame on Colby Lewis has been pushed back quite a bit, but he's about ready to go. These are two really good arms. We can talk about how Harrison's outperformed his peripherals in the past, but at the same time, if Harry's your number 3, Harry's a good number 3.
sure.
So they have the potential to have an absolutely devastating playoff rotation that I don't think's matched in the American League. I'll even take the Rangers rotation over the Tigers rotation, if nothing more than the Rangers have so much depth. I think the Rangers bullpen is better too.
Absolutely.
I think it's way
Right.
better. And so we've seen the last few years what's won championships besides the Cardinals, in my opinion. I think what's the Giants have laid the blueprint. You win championships by getting 2 or 3 guys in your order extremely hot, and your pitching just shuts everybody down. And I think the Rangers are actually a team constructed to do that exactly. They're not going to score a ton of runs, but neither did either of the Giants teams. They just got hot at the right time, and who knows, we could be seeing that start right now.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the minority on this, and this might be a completely irrational statement, but I think this would be the most dangerous Rangers team in a postseason series that we've ever had. I think defensively it's the best team, and I think the bullpen, I mean, you could put this bullpen against any bullpen in the major leagues. And, you know, when you figure that the rotation is going to be so good that it's probably going to force Alexia Gondo back to the bullpen, you're looking at Joe Nathan, Joaquin Soria, Tanner Scheppers, Robbie Ross, Neil Kotz, and Alexia Gondo. You know, you could tandem those bullpen units over, you know, different games in a series, and, you know, we've seen how important bullpens are, you know, since we've been making the playoffs. If you have guys coming in just blowing hitters away, which is basically what baseball has turned into nowadays because the pitching is just overmatching the hitters. You know, the Rangers, I just can't think of a team in a better position than they are. Of course, the problem is going to be getting there, which is what we've been talking about. But, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about, you know, the chances of even getting a wild card spot right now?
I think they're good simply because the Rangers have a very easy second half schedule. Granted, they did lose games they should have been winning. I mean, against the Yankees, against the Indians, they really needed to win those games, and there's no denying that. They played bad baseball. They didn't play very good baseball. I think the A's are very good. I think there is a shot we're going to catch them. We have to play very good baseball to catch them, and the A's have to start performing like we think the A's should be performing. There is a chance of that. I'm not going to deny it because the A's have a tougher second half schedule. So the opportunity exists for us to win the AL West, but it's going to be tough, and it's going to take us not only just winning the rest of the series with the A's, but winning, you know, sweeping one of the series and possibly, you know, playing not possibly, but having to play really, really good ball. Do I want to compete for a wild card? No. My ultimate goal is still to win the damn division because it's not yet gone. If they win tonight, it's down to 4 games, and that's really manageable for me. I feel better about 4 games, and that would have been 2 games you picked up in 2 days. So a lot can change in a week, obviously. Yeah, I'm just not yet ready to let the division go. Ask me again in a week, though, and I might be ready just to go for a wild card.
What do you think about not acquiring a hitter on the trade market?
I think the Rangers took the correct approach. It was go big or go home. You don't want to just, you know, don't half-ass one thing, or don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass one thing. There wasn't the hitter the Rangers wanted out there. They kept kicking the tires on Bautista. They kept kicking the tires on Stanton. And they just weren't going to budge. And the Rangers aren't going to just say, well, you know, ho-hum, I guess I'll just go get so-and-so. Because, I mean, a lot of teams didn't sell that should have been selling. Kansas City and Seattle come to mind. Those teams should have sold off everything they had. And they didn't. and they're going to regret that when players walk, and they have, they just sit there sad and they suck again. So
I think it's got to have something to do with how these teams are disillusioned into thinking that if they're so close to the wild card right now that they will be 2 months from now. And, the media was going after the Rangers to go out, to get a bat. They've been doing it for, 2 weeks now. But I think John Daniels was playing the smart approach, which was more just that variance has been against the Rangers this year. I mean, a lot of injuries. Guys are coming back from injury, which theoretically should help the club. And then, Elvis Andrus had a terrible first half. He's regressed back, over his mean in the second half so far. And I think they're hoping for the same type of impact from David Murphy. So, yeah, I totally, I had a good point I was trying to get at, but I totally forgot midway through. So I guess we can just talk about the next thing.
Yeah. Question. Let's dust off our crystal balls and gaze into them for 1 second before we talk about Matt Always Angry Garza. What are the odds we win the division, 1? And what are the odds we get into the playoffs, 2?
Okay, would you like this to be in percentage form, odds form?
Percentages, please.
Okay. To win the division right now, I would give the Rangers a 35% chance, which is probably really high. To make the postseason, I would say 80%.
Okay, so
mainly, yeah.
Okay, so you have some hope.
There is definitely hope there.
Okay, I was gonna say I think I'm a little more optimistic. I think the Rangers have a 40% shot at winning the division, but more closer to like a 70% shot at making the playoffs. I think a lot of it. I just gotta think. I don't know. I think you got to win the division. It's a tough deal, that 1 game playoff, as we're way too aware, and I think the Rangers shouldn't be playing for the wild card. They need to play for the division.
Yeah,
and I think they are.
I think the problem isn't that I don't think the Rangers are good enough to beat out a team like the A's, because if the Rangers and A's had a 7-game series right now, I would take the Rangers. The problem is that, we've spotted them a 5-game lead this late in the year, and 5 games is not easy to make up. So, we're going to be competing against teams like Cleveland and Baltimore and Tampa Bay, and really I think that it's, at worst case scenario, I can't see the wild card contenders beating out the Rangers and the Rays for the last 2 spots. I just think those teams are too good. And I think I just mentioned the Rays like they're in the wild card chase. I believe they're winning the division right now. So
yeah, I think they'll take the East. They'll take the East. Well, whoever doesn't take the East between the Sox and the Rays will end up. I mean, obviously they're going to get one of the other wild cards. Mm-hmm. And then you have the dark horse Baltimore, who could push you out too. So, but
are
Baltimore,
you a believer? Are you a believer in Baltimore?
No, not this year.
Okay. Well, I wasn't a believer last year.
Last year was lightning in a bottle. They're good, but they're not. They don't have an ace. They have a bunch of number 3s, which arguably that's what got the Rangers to the World Series in 2011. But
yeah,
they don't. I mean, I'm not a believer. But talking about number 3s and aces and things like that, let's talk about Matt Garza. Good trade, bad trade. Who cares? Because we're losing sort of trade. What do you think?
Personally, I wouldn't have given up Mike Olt straight up for him. Just because I think 6 years of a top 50-ish prospect is more valuable than 2 months of a number 3 starter. But now that he's on the team, it's like I'm rooting for him to win just like he's any other Ranger. So, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier, is just that I like the trade more now just because, in retrospect, the Rangers didn't give up a lot of impact talent. There were no Profars or Perez's in that deal. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't have made the trade, but I'm happy to have him now that he's here.
Out of all those prospects we traded, who do you think has the best career? Olt, C.J. Edwards, assuming it's Neil Ramirez, or Justin Grimm?
Yeah, we can just throw Justin Grimm out of that now. I'm not an Olt guy. I am a big C.J. Edwards fan. And Neil Ramirez, could be a number 3 pitcher, or he could just flame out and never really have any kind of career. So I would just say C.J. Edwards by default, and he's probably the biggest question mark of them all because he's the furthest away from the major leagues. How do you feel?
How does he? I mean, knowing what you know about him, does he profile to you? Do you think he ends up a reliever, or do you think he sticks as a starter?
He was my favorite pitching prospect within the Rangers organization. So with that bias aside, I feel like he's in the rotation someday. Probably not, top or anything, but like you said, 3 or 4. I could definitely see that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm with you. I think C.J. Edwards has the best career. I don't side with Parks as much as I think C.J. is going to pan out to be a starter. He doesn't have the typical frame because he's a smaller guy, but at the same time, I think he has more success as a starter than Ogando does. And I'm not giving him comps. I'm just saying I think that CJ has good enough stuff that I think it will continue to play as a starter throughout the minor league level. He's had 1 start and high A ball now, and he went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit, gave up 1 walk, and struck out 8. Still has yet to allow a home run as a professional baseball player, which is an absolutely amazing stat. And I think he sticks. I think he's gonna be the best player in that trade by far. I think years from now, depending on what the Rangers do, it will be looked as a fairly good trade for both teams.
Yeah, I think if the Rangers don't make the playoffs, then it'll be a failed trade, and if they do and have success, then it'll kind of be like a Cliff Lee type of effect, that he'll kind of get some extra credit for, turning it around or whatever. They'll probably have a lot of records saying, oh, the Rangers went X and X after Matt Garza was acquired.
Yeah.
But C.J. Edwards, he has great pitchability, and he has a lot of movement on his fastball, and those types of things tend to play very well as you move up the minor league ranks. One thing about him, though, is that he is already in his age 22 season, so he has been dominating hitters who are basically, 19, 20-year-olds in low A, and now that he's in high A, he'll actually get challenged. But I think that's the one caveat about him, is that he might not be everything that he showed while he was at Hickory.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
That's you could say that about any prospect, though. So
yeah, I think he's going to be the guy we worry about the most, the flags fly forever sort of deal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, okay, I'm losing my train of thought, but because I'm watching the game right now, they got JB Shucks at third with 2 outs. They intentionally walked Mike Trout to face Mark Trumbo. Tanner Scheppers against Mark Trumbo. What do you think happens?
If it's Mark Trumbo, I'm going to guess it's either a home run or a strikeout on a really bad pitch.
All right. So now, talking about C.J. Edwards and the whole flags fly forever theories, let's talk a little bit about C.J. Edwards and where he departed from, rather, the minor league clubs. I just wanted to kind of touch on some what I like to call minor notes. Get it? There was an article written, I believe, on Lone Star Ball about the Hickory hitters and just how much they're striking out and whether this is a worry to you. Do strikeouts bother you, Eric?
Not as much as people on TV make it sound. No.
No. Do you worry about the strikeouts from the Hickory hitters?
Not particularly, just because they're so young. If they were like 22 in Double A and they were still, striking out like this, then maybe you start to worry about that. But I think they have years to adjust, and experience will help them. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about individual players right now. Do you think Joey Gallo is in Myrtle Beach next year?
Yes, definitely.
You don't think he repeats with Hickory to try to decrease his strikeout rate and work on his hit tool?
No, just because I think the way the Rangers like to do it is, when you repeat a level, I think it kind of says something about how you performed the year before. And with guys like Nick Williams, Lewis Brinson, George Alfaro, Joey Gallo, all these hitters, they've all had pretty damn good success at various stages. They've also been terrible because, a lot of them are just bang or bust hitters. But, yeah, I think the whole cast that's at Hickory right now, at least the big prospects of the group, I think they'll all graduate together to Myrtle Beach.
So, speaking of more, I guess we should just call this the Hickory part of our podcast, because aside from Rugi and Sardinius, there's not a whole lot of other well, there are, I take that back, there are a lot of other really good prospects in the Rangers system, but I think that, the ooh and ah prospects, the ones that grab your attention for good or bad reasons, are all in Hickory. What do you think of Jorge Alfaro? Does he worry you at all as far as him profiling out to be a catcher?
No, I from the scouting reports I've read on him this year, his defense has actually taken a big step forward, and I don't know if Ivan Rodriguez has any impact on that, but Alfaro's been fine on defense, and that's always going to be what I look for first. But yeah, he hasn't exactly materialized into the 280 hitter with just ridiculous power numbers yet. He's kind of been a fringy hitter again. But as far as it worrying me, kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Just he's so young. I think he's still only in his age 19 season, or maybe age 20. I'm not sure. But I think he has plenty of time still left to develop. So it's not a concern yet. I think 2 years from now, if he's still, this kind of guy, then we'll just know that he was an overrated prospect, basically.
From the reports I've read, there's a fair amount of pass balls. His footwork is better, from what I've read. His footwork has been better. But there's, like you said, like you alluded to, his offense has actually been one of the most disappointing parts of his game. He does have more home runs than he did last year. He also is playing in more games than he's ever played in a single season, even with the injury, which also kind of brings up another, kind of troubling aspect. Maybe he's injury prone. He was injured last year. He's injured this year, missed the Futures game. I know this sounds doom and gloom, but I think he worries me a little bit more than a lot of the other Hickory guys do at this point. Out of all those guys, I think that Nick Williams is probably going to be the one who really has the best major league career, simply because I think he can get there the quickest and his tools will preserve throughout the minors. Not, Rugi Odor excluded. I think Rugi Odor is one of the Rangers' top 5 prospects by far, and he's in Myrtle Beach. He'll be in Frisco next year, which I'm pretty excited about that. Sorry, I kind of digress there.
Oh yeah, no, it's totally fine. I kind of want to go on Fangraphs right now and just see how everyone's hitting, because I kind of feel like Nick Williams. I know he has kind of a strong following this year because I know he's had the best overall offensive season, but I hate to get too worked up about guys that maybe come out of the gate stronger than other players, because I'm a ceiling guy all the way. Which is why I like prospects like Alfaro and Gallo, and I have belief in them. Nick Williams just seems like a fringy fourth outfielder type to me. I know he's had a very good year, and he's still very young. And apparently he was going to be like the number 1 overall pick before he got injured his senior year of high school. But I kind of tend to think those kinds of stats kind of distort our perception of prospects. Like, one good year of Nick Williams suddenly makes him the best prospect on the team. I don't really look at it that way, I guess.
No, I agree.
But yeah.
Go ahead. If you were to give a Rangers top 10 prospects, what kind of names would you throw in there? This part of the year, at least.
Another very good Ian Fullington question.
Of course.
Okay. I'm going to say Lewis Brinson is going to be the best prospect on the team. He's my favorite prospect in the organization.
He's number 1?
I would put him 1, and I would probably put Alfaro and Gallo 2 and 3. And I'm high on Ronald Guzman as well. Let's see. And Luke Jackson. I would take all those guys before I took Nick Williams. and that would also include Sardinas and Odor. Man, we have a lot of prospects, don't we?
Yeah, just the thing with our prospects is they're in A and high A ball. There's very few above there. And we even have some guys in Spokane, like Chichi Gonzalez, who we drafted this year, has put together 2 very impressive starts. And then you have Travis Demerit down in rookie ball, who's putting up decent numbers. They're not like Gallo or Olt numbers, but they're very impressive numbers.
How
and he's holding it. I mean,
how would you handicap the top 5 in the organization as of right now?
Probably Sardinas. I would put number 1 simply because I think he's again held a. I go back and forth between Rugi and Sardinas as 1 and 3 simply because I put Alfaro number 2. And then I would probably put. That's tough because Jackson's would be up there for me. It's a tough deal to try to rate these guys because I think that I want to put Guzman up there. I want to put Ario Barras up there, but again, we're not going to see a whole lot of him because he got injured.
Yeah, out for the year.
Yeah, my top 3, and it changes with the way the wind blows, but Alfaro is definitely number 2. I either have Sardinas or Rugi 1 or 3, which is kind of weird to say, but I think they're 1 or 3. I definitely think that Gallo's probably number 5 for me. Again, it fluctuates. I don't know who's number 4. Don't ask me that. I don't know who's number 4 right now.
I guess, okay, let me rephrase the question. If the Rangers... Okay, which Ranger prospect would you be most disappointed to see leave?
Well, I'm a little bit biased because I really like Rugi Odor.
I do too, man. He's awesome.
I'm surprised more teams weren't kicking the tires on him for trades, which they could have been, and the Rangers just said flat out no. But I'm a big... I know he doesn't have a place on this team right now necessarily, but I'm a big Rugi Odor fan. I think he has everything that we really could actually use. The kind of... I hate saying attitude, so I'm going to say he has the makeup of a player that I want on my team. He has a good hit tool. Again, I like his makeup a lot. Just from a baseball player's perspective. I know that's dumb to say, and I don't like saying it like that. But I think that's better than saying he has the will to win or he has leadership. I think saying he has good baseball player makeup, I think that speaks more volumes about what makeup encompasses. I think is a lot more than just leadership and the will to win necessarily.
Well, definitely, and yeah, you want to finish that?
No, those are my thoughts. I'm talking in circles. It's really not that important.
Well, I completely agree with you. Makeup encompasses everything, and I think us being Rangers fans and growing up with Michael Young, words like leadership were brought out, but every time shit hit the fan, we realized how little leadership he actually possessed. So, I tend to side with... I have no problem saying players have good makeup, whatever, but you're not going to catch me saying, I want him on my team because he's a leader. The Rangers organization, top to bottom, they like good makeup guys. They like guys that want to win, that get along with other players, yada, yada, yada. It's the model that, places like the Cardinals and the Giants have succeeded with for so long is, that's the way baseball goes now. We realize that teams aren't performing that well when they have these iconic stars who are getting paid, a quarter of the team's salary. And, I think the Rangers are doing it the right way. I'm obviously getting off topic here because we're supposed to be talking about Roughnet Odor or Rugned. I don't even know how you pronounce his name, to be honest with you.
It's Ruhind.
Ruhind.
Ruhind Odor.
Okay.
But I just call him Ruhind.
Yeah, that's
because
what
that's
I call
an
him
awesome
too.
nickname.
Yeah.
Does Wilmer Font or Cody Buchel have any prospect value to you right now?
Cody Buckle. I don't know about him, man. He's horrible.
We don't even know. Like, he's back in Arizona right now. I don't think he's even playing in games. I think he's trying to work it out.
Yeah, I think Jason Parks made a joke the other day. Jason Cole said that Cody Buckle was throwing, and then Jason Parks said, ball one, I think, which was funny. Wilmer Font, I think he could be in our bullpen next year. He needs to learn how to throw strikes, though.
He's never going to. The best case outcome for Wilmer Fonz is Tanner Scheppers. And that would be like your ceiling with Wilmer Fonz. He's gonna throw it hard, and it's gonna be disgusting, but you don't know where it's gonna go. He's either gonna strike you out, he's either gonna walk you, or he's gonna hit you. And that's all he does. He's not gonna give up a whole lot of hits, but he sure is gonna be wild.
Yeah.
He can be the most frustrating bullpen guy I bet we have had in a long time.
Well, also, I think it needs to be taken into consideration that he had Tommy John surgery, like, a couple years ago, and he's still probably not, 100% back from that, and he's only 22 or 23 right now. Still really young, and a lot of time for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was born, he's 23. And so 2012 was his comeback from Tommy John season. So at the end of this year, I'd say he's back. So, and
the Rangers just have so many bullpen arms. Like, he would be in a lot of major league bullpens right now because he can throw mid to upper 90s. But the Rangers just have so much talent out there. There's no place for anybody.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. They're packed. We didn't even mention players like Nomar Mazara, Ramon Mendez. Again, I mentioned Alex Chichi Gonzalez. Neil Ramirez is all in likelihood he's probably gone. Some other names that we really haven't talked about, that we have a decent organizational depth guy in Hanser Alberto in Frisco. Connor Sazdek, David Perez in Spokane, who's
I think he's been there for like 4 years.
Yeah, he's been there for a while, but it is what it is. These are guys who are, right now they're fours. They could become fives that someday actually contribute to your team,
and that has value
sometimes
too.
These are you definitely need. Every team's going to have their sixes and maybe a seven if you're really lucky, but a lot of your guys on your team are going to be fives, and that's we have quite a few fives in our team right now. I would consider David Murphy a 4-5. Probably a 5. I think he's a fourth outfielder. Craig Gentry again, same sort of deal. And then you have a bunch of fives, and I think Nelson Cruz is a 5. Damn it, Kinsler just flew out. We're going to the 9th inning. It's going to be another walk-off if they win it.
That'd be so great.
It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. What were we just talking about?
Just talking about prospects and just what kind of system.
Two guys I really am going to be focusing on. I kind of like the obscure guys. David Gates is in the Arizona League right now. He has a big arm and some serious makeup issues from the past. And Cody Wiper, pitcher out of the University of Oregon.
Cole Wiper.
Oh, Cole Wiper. I said Cody, my fault.
Cole Wiper, yeah. He was one of those interesting signings that got paid way over slots in later rounds.
Right. It was kind of weird. A lot of people were like, why the hell... Like, he didn't even have a, big scouting report or anything. A lot of people thought he was kind of a fringy, prospect in the future at best. And but the Rangers, I don't know, I thought the draft was actually really cool the way they played it. They saved a lot of money in the early rounds and then, basically blew it on Wiper later on.
Yeah, from a lot of accounts about Wiper, they've said he's a intriguing prospect, which if things pan out in rookie ball, typically your intriguing prospects turn into your, Alfaros, your Guzmans, your kind of players like that. They're like, keep an eye on this guy once they move up through low A ball, because these guys could turn in, they could turn out to be your, not saying he's a C.J. Edwards, but we got C.J. Edwards in an obscure round that doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
So...
Yeah, the Rangers do their homework.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. This will be one of the few classes I keep a really close eye on, because there are quite, like you said, there's quite a few guys who I find very interesting that when they go through the system, I should say, it'll be pretty interesting to see how they progress.
Yeah. Let's see.
Any last thoughts, Eric?
Let's see. Yeah, Nelson Cruz.
Oh, yes. I'm just going to throw it out there that I don't know anything, and neither do you. I don't know what's going to happen with this. Apparently he wasn't going to appeal, and now he's going to appeal. Apparently suspensions weren't going to take place till next year, and now they're going to happen Friday. No one knows what's really going on, and Major League Baseball is completely to blame for this, aside from the players actually taking performance-enhancing drugs. They have probably handled this about as poorly as they possibly could have. That's my opinion, since you asked.
Right. Well, let's take this a little more towards how it affects the Rangers, because I wrote a piece on Nolan Wrighton today about how the Rangers did not acquire an outfielder, and how I believe that kind of signals that Nelson Cruz may be appealing his suspension. Because, it's kind of obvious. Like, Detroit picked up Jose Iglesias in the Jake Peavy trade because they know that Johnny Peralta is, going to be suspended and miss the rest of the year. And I'm curious why the Rangers did not decide to pick up some insurance, like maybe a Nate Schierholtz type, just a filler to fill in the rest of the year. And I don't know, I kind of think that if the Rangers had discussions with Nelson Cruz about this and said, hey, appeal the suspension, help us in 2013, you would think there'd be some good faith in bringing him back, the following season, because he'd be taking a dive for his franchise. The sacrifice is worth something. Am I completely losing my mind, or can you see this as a rational thing that's happening right now?
No, I completely agree, and I wonder what kind of off the record discussions have gone on about this, because those discussions have taken place. I wonder if there's some sort of qualifying offer the Rangers would make to Nelson Cruz, regardless of what happens. If they would make, they're just saying, look, if you appeal it, we'll make you the qualifying offer that you can come back for a year. We'll pay you, $12 million or whatever. I don't even know what his qualifying offer would be. But it could just be that insurance policy. Listen, we're going to make you the qualifying offer if you appeal. If you don't appeal, you're not going to get the qualifying offer. And, who knows how this could affect your trade market value. But, I think that's the kind of where this is going. I think they still might get a bat during the waiver the waiver period. I really don't know. So we'll see. I do wish they would have gotten a bat, but at the same time, no one out there really wowed me enough to want to move guys who I really value and like we just talked about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, if Hunter Pence and Alex Rios are the two big names on the market, then we should probably just wait for another time, because even guys like Angel Beltre could provide comparable value just because of how well they play defense, the stolen base factor. If the Rangers really wanted to acquire a bat, you would think they would go big. They would look for a guy like Alex Gordon, which of course would never happen because the Royals are still convinced that they're a playoff team.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Royals have 4 guys that I would just, I would trade a shitload for them, to be honest. But
yeah,
back to Nelson Cruz though. I just think this saga is kind of interesting because I wouldn't be completely opposed to that idea. I think it would be a pretty creative move by the Rangers and by Nelson Cruz, because he's still probably the second or third best hitter in our lineup, and we need that.
Yeah, we do. And no matter what happens, I think that if he's suspended, there's going to be an offensive drop-off a lot. Even if you say, oh no, we have Angel Beltre and Jurickson Profar can play left. Well, you're still missing your leading RBI and leading home run hitter then, and that's a big deal. Especially going forward, because a lot of the younger guys had never played a full Major League Baseball season. Of course, Jurickson Profar is just sitting on the bench right now doing nothing. He's played in 3 of the last 11 games. So, yeah, I don't like the lineup management. I don't like David Murphy being in the lineup. But we're going to have to put him there. So.
Yeah, the options are just not that great right now.
No.
Which is why my whole theory behind the whole trade deadline is pitching is still the priority, and it's not about scoring 5 or 6 runs a game. It's just about making those 2 and 3 run games stand up again like they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, you see what John Daniels said today. He's like, just get to 4 runs. That's all you need to do. Because he's that confident in his pitching. He just says, if you get to 4 runs, you'll be fine. And, I mean, that would have held true tonight. I mean, we're 1-1 at the top of the ninth. Hamilton walked, 1 out. Rangers would have scored 4 runs. We would have been, going for one of the stupidest save situations. But still, I mean, we wouldn't have had to try to walk it off.
Well, yeah, and we'd have to go back and re-pitch every single pitch with the lead being 4-1 and everything. Space-time continuum, bro.
Yeah, I don't know what we do.
But there was some ridiculous stat that said the Rangers were like 47-9 when they scored at least 4 runs. I mean, that's like an 800 winning percentage or something.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows how good their pitching has been, despite the injuries, despite everything that's gone on this year. Their pitching has been the one thing that's kept them, if you want to say afloat, then they've been kept afloat by their pitching.
Right.
We're blessed. We've been kept afloat by our pitching.
So blessed.
Yes. Speaking of being blessed, I think it's time that we bless this podcast.
Okay.
And so, Eric, I want to first thank you for putting up with my shit. I'll be glad to get back in a regular routine with this again.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all of our listener for hanging with us. We will be moving to a website here in the next month or so. So we will have these hosted on iTunes then, once I can get an RSS feed. I can figure out what the hell I'm doing more than that. Mm-hmm. And we'll be good to go for the home stretch of baseball. So, Eric, why don't you take us out?
Okay. I'm confident and very hoping that you handle all this computer shit because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But, yeah, I mean, I've definitely missed our random bullshit conversations, and I'm looking forward to more of them. So, for Ian Fullington, I am Eric Reining. Thank you for listening to whatever episode this is of Warning Track Power. And in theory, we'll be back in a couple weeks, but we'll have to see. So, anyway, have a good night. Thank you for listening, and go Rangers.
Yeah. Since the shorty I was 40, and my 40s is like 80s. So by the time I die, I'm gonna be a baby. Yeah. Say, since the shorty I've been 40, and my 40s is like 80s. So by the time I die, I'm gonna be a baby. It's on my youth sound, just like lightning coming down. See my youth sound like lightning coming down. And my youth sound just like lightning coming down. And my youth sound just like lightning coming down. From my view here, my hue veers to a blue smear on a white wall, which you might call my blue